Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at these Dark Age Dwarves from Conqueror Miniatures. I've got a unit of archers here. Let's see how I got on with them.
Scruffy Crow.
Okay, another day, some more exciting post. These arrived. These are from Conqueror Miniatures. They're medieval dwarfs range. And there should be, I've already glued one to his base. And there should be 15 more. 2 of each sculpt. Okay, so yeah, we've got 2 of each sculpt. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So we're going to need 15 of them. So something I wasn't expecting when these arrived was for the bows to be separate. So we've got a few shields here. We've got the larger size ones. So we've got 6 of those and 4 of these smaller ones. And then we've got my bows. Hopefully there'll be 15. So as I said, I've already glued one onto a base and glued a bow in. And that was a bit of a faff. But anyway, let's have a look at the minis. So these are sort of Dark Age style dwarves. And I think they fit in very well with the rest of the dwarves I have. So here is a Oathmark Dwarf and NEM4 Dwarf, and we're already aware that they fit together perfectly nicely. So let's see what these guys look like alongside those. So these guys haven't got much shorter beards. They've got sort of short bushy beards, but they've got a very similar armour layout to the Oathmark Dwarf, with the tunic there. So I'll be able to paint the sleeves blue and the bottom of the tunic blue. I can do grey trousers, which is a colour I've used elsewhere. So yeah, they fit in quite well armour-wise. And yes, scale-wise, they fit in quite well as well. The danger we have with dwarves, I find sometimes, is that if we look, for instance, at a sort of classic Games Workshop dwarf here, there's a big difference between this style of dwarf and the ones that I'm using. They're a similar sort of height, but they're all just face and beard. Whereas these guys are a little bit more realistically proportioned. So yeah, these guys definitely fit in better with the stuff I've got than the old Games Workshop style. Sort of a nice little close-up look at them. They are really nice sculpts actually. They appear to be sort of classically sculpted. You can tell that by the sort of chainmail and just the general look of them. Because I know this website does do some 3D printed minis. They've got a lovely amount of detail, while still remaining fairly simple. So they should be fairly quick to paint up. Anything I'm annoyed about so far is the bows. But let's get them all put together and see if that annoys me as much as I think it's going to. I prepared this while I was waiting for them to arrive. We have 15 bases. These are the renderer bases on a GW movement tray at the moment. I'm going to use a model wearing the sort of Sutton Hoo style face mask as the leader. And hopefully I can put him on the cork without trimming his bottom base off. Yeah, I can. So that'll rise him up so he'll look even more imposing as the leader. I've picked out some files here. I need new ones actually. These ones are reaching the end of their life. I've got a round one that'll help me get into some of the nooks and crannies, and a flat one which I'll mostly just be using for cleaning up the bottoms of these bases. So this one's not too bad. Some of them have got fairly lumpy bottoms where they were cut from the sprue by the looks of things. But it's fairly short work just to smooth those off. I think I'm going to start by getting them all on the bases. Something like that. Make sure the eyes are pointing straight forward. Keep them quite central. So I'll get these glued on now. And there they are all ranked up. And they were fairly easy to get stood up. So now the next step is going to go through them one by one as the glue dries and clean off any mould lines. In general they're pretty neat, but there's a few little bits, like a little vent there, and as you can see that there's a little mould line under his cuff there. But nothing that's going to take too much work. I actually find mould removal quite relaxing. So I'll sit here and turn my brain off and clear these guys up. Okay, I've got them all cleaned up, and I've gone and I've cleaned up the edge of the bows, also on the ends where there was a bit of flash. Getting the mould lines on these things is almost impossible, but I'm going to paint them kind of wood grain and stripey anyway, so I don't think you'll notice. I've also cleaned up these little shields. I was looking at the big shields, and some of these models do have some big shields slung across their backs. But I'm not convinced any of the ones left. Oh, do you know what? I might throw a couple of these on. Okay, so there's one of the big shields attached to a random guy. I think it looks pretty cool, but I'm not going to do it with all of them. So that's the guy with the moulded shield. That's the guy with the shield I just added. So yeah, I think that works. Looks pretty cool. Okay, so the next step is going to be to get these bows on. I'm not sure what the best way of doing this is. I'm going to try to be very gentle. I've just got a drip of glue just in his hand there. And this is wanting to twist round on me, which is annoying. Okay, that's worked. It's in there. It's not straight though. There we go, that's better. Okay. I'll just another 14 more of those to go. I'm about halfway through painting these guys now. I just wanted to pause and say how much I love painting this blue layer. I mean, if you can tell here, these are the same sculpts, and it just absolutely brings the model to life compared to his non-blue companion here. Okay, so here they are. They've all had the same paint job as all the rest of my dwarves in my army. So you can see that in my speed painting dwarf spearman video. I'll link it in the description. They were a little bit trickier to paint. They are in some ways a bit more detailed than all the other dwarves I have in my army, but in some ways they're a bit less detailed. They're just a very different style. Possibly because these are the hand sculpted troops that I've got, seeing as everything else is pretty much plastic apart from the heroes. I think they've turned out pretty nicely. They've worked quite kind of well. These guys are just going to go and get a layer of the Luke's APS scribbling base in to match in the rest of my army. So I'll do that in a second. In the meantime, let's have a look at these guys. So here is one of my archers that I just painted up. And here is all the rest of the types of dwarves in my army. So I'll show you how he sort of stacks up to these. So here is the sort of official Oathmark dwarf, like metal dwarf. The only issue is the shorter beard, but yeah, he's pretty much bang on in sort of shape, style, height. They're both stood. If I put the bases side by side, they are both stood on a little lip. So the Oathmark dwarf is a bit bulkier, but as soon as these guys are being border guards, I don't think it really matters. I think they work a bit slimmer, and the armor style and look are close enough that yeah, I think they work really well. Next up, we've got my second cheapest dwarves, my Technolog dwarves. Now these guys are a little bit shorter and squatter, but facially I think these guys match. Actually, remember this guy is on a little lip, so that's kind of fair. This guy might be a better comparison anyway. So yeah, so these guys are a little bit different proportioned, a little bit taller than these ones. But I think they still work well enough to be in the same army. Next up we've got my EM4 dwarves, and once again this guy is stood on a little plinth, whereas this guy's flat onto his base. And I mean, if they match the Oathmark dwarves, we know they're probably going to match these fairly well. Obviously a little bit more detailed, but yeah, proportionally and sort of general shape and style, they fit in quite well, especially as these are, you know, lighter armoured troops. And lastly, here is an old Games Workshop dwarf. I think I've mentioned this before, But Games Workshop dwarves are basically just all face, all face and beard. So they're just, it's a nice style of dwarf, and maybe eventually I'll do a whole army on of these sort of old style dwarves. At least a little. I think I'm at least going to collect a little warband of them, but they don't match in any way. So although there might be sort of size and scale differences with this lot, but compared to these sort of Games Workshop style dwarves, there's obviously quite a big difference.
Okay, and here they are all finished and based up. I'm really happy with the way these have come out all in all. I think they're looking great. I definitely buy from these guys again. I'm even tempted to buy one of their packs of 4 sort of commanders, and then I could split this unit into 2 units of 10. But I'll see how these guys do on the battlefield first. It'd be quite interesting to run a whole army of these guys, but obviously it was a lot cheaper to run a whole army of the EM4 Dwarves. One thing I do have to point out is that these guys, this one unit, cost as much as all of my units of EM4 Dwarves, almost 100, because these guys cost about 20 quid for the unit of 16. That's including postage, so making them, a bit more than £1 a model, whereas the EM4 Dwarves work out about 20p a model. So they are more than 5 times as expensive. And I don't necessarily think you get more than 5 times the quality of model. But I think that says more about the cheapness of the EM4 Dwarves than the quality of these guys. But still, for a wargaming miniature, they're certainly not on the expensive side of things. And they are nice, and I think they are worth the money. So that's it for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments. Are any of you guys thinking of picking up some Conqueror Dwarves? How well do you think they fit in with the sort of Oathmark sort of Dark Age aesthetic? Because I think they're great. Once again, let me know in the comments, and as ever, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.